Hello, everyone. This is Tukan from LeadSift here. Today, I have Blake Johnston here. Blake's the CEO and founder of Outbound View. Hey, Blake, how's it going?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Pretty good, thank you. Thanks a lot for taking the time, Blake. As I mentioned when I reached out to you, the reason I'm reaching out to you and other sales experts is basically there's a lot of uncertainty and fear, specifically around the sales and account executive community, where they're worried about how to do prospecting the right way. How do they reach out to the
Yep.
existing deals without sounding tone deaf and disingenuous? So that's why I'm collecting information from experts like you. So the first question that I wanted to ask you is, given that Outbound View is a services company that helps other companies better prospect and guides them to do that, um, how are you seeing this whole thing
Yep.
in the market for you?
Yeah, so we definitely have a unique view because we see across a bunch of different industries, right?
Yeah.
And we advise on how we do things like adjusting messaging and adjusting calling scripts and those types of things. And so, there's not a single client we have that we didn't adjust our messaging for. So I think the first step is obviously looking at what you're sending. If you're doing it in the right way, it should already have empathy. It should already talk about the individual's problems that they're facing on a day-to-day basis. But I do think there's a separate lens to look at that says, now that everybody's working remote, now that there's so much uncertainty, now that there's all these other things happening, how does that lens change on what that person is dealing with related to your product or service or not? But,
Hmm.
if you're a manager with a bunch of direct reports who are all now working remote, what is on your mind on a day-to-day basis is very different than what it was when everyone was going into the office. So it's like acknowledge is one, and then empathize with what it is that they're dealing with given what's going on is the second big one.
Got it. So given that you have this unique view of working across clients across different industries,
Yep.
let's take this example. Let's say you have a client who sells an accounting software, and
Yeah.
they have their SDR team that is still responsible for prospecting.
Yeah.
How would you advise them, that accounting software team, to prospect? Like, what would be the connection when they reach out? Like, how
Yeah.
would they message?
Well, just imagine, you're trying to sell, and let's say it's going into a larger organization.
Sure.
So who are you selling into? CFO, that type of
Director of
individual?
finance, let's say. Yeah.
Exactly. Imagine what a director of finance is going through from a planning perspective and what they're being asked to do by their CEO as a part of the leadership team. Like, are cuts happening? What type of runway do we have? What are we going to do for funding? Like, so many things outside of accounting software
Yeah.
that it's a critical that you acknowledge, not that they're working remotely. That's one piece of it. But there are probably a lot of new things on their table right now that are different than getting their business taxes in, which were
Yeah.
due on March
Yeah.
15th,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, so that's probably a secondary issue of what they're dealing with and the craziness. And so if you can't explain that and you can't, tell them that you understand what they're going through, and maybe they're not going to be taking a meeting now, but maybe it's here's what we're hearing from other CFOs and how they're addressing it, like something along those lines, then it will sound tone deaf and it'll sound like you're just trying to sell your product.
That's awesome. So this is a common theme that we're seeing from a lot of people. What they're sharing is, when reaching out, understand their situation,
Yep.
acknowledge it, and then rather than, if it makes sense, but most times rather than just going for the direct sell or asking for the meeting,
Yeah.
collect some resources, saying, hey, we have seen other CFOs talk about it.
Yep.
The data, thought I'd share.
Yeah, and sometimes we're still asking for a meeting in some instances. In some others, it doesn't make sense though, right? Or there's a bigger value add. Like, we work with a sales coaching company.
Sure.
Like, virtual coaching and how you manage virtual teams is core content that they've already developed, right? So like, their outreach is hope this is helpful. Nothing else, just hope this is helpful. And at some point, if you're providing helpful content, you're building rapport over time. Like, if you believe in sales karma, like I do, like things will happen if you do the right thing. So it does depend on the industry, and what you're selling and what that looks like. And I don't think across the board we just stop asking for meetings.
Fair
Um,
enough. Yeah.
but if you can provide more value at a critical time, provide the value, you know.
Okay. And one final question. Would you suggest one channel being better than other? Meaning, should people reach out to an email or LinkedIn and throw in the phone or
Yep.
thing?
So, especially over the last week or two, I feel like phone is starting to get more and more viable because people are, you know, they found their remote position, everything's forwarded over, all of those things are happening. And then it's so different by every industry. I mean, we're heavy on the phone normally anyway, but like we've seen that marketers are picking up the phone way more than they ever have. I
Hmm.
assume it's because they're not in meetings and they're at, they're at home. So it's all over the board. I mean, I don't think it changes email, phone, personalized videos on LinkedIn, kind of all of those things. I think it just matters so much on who you're selling into and what that looks like.
Perfect. This is super helpful. Thank you so much, Blake.
Yeah,
Thanks.
of course.